A warm welcome to Raj Katecha.
So my name is Raj Katecha. I've spoken here before, employed people as a result of speaking here before. The kind of people I employ are really ambitious, go-getting hustlers. I'm not really bothered about what A-levels you've got. I want to know specifically what kind of results you can bring. And I only really want to make one point today in the time that I've got, which is that we live in a time right now where even when I was at university 10 years ago at Manchester Met, which is next Poly, there was a whole bunch of systems in place so people would go for grad schemes and all that kind of stuff. That whole system is now broken. And it's really about what you can prove. And we live in a world right now where the more you can prove by the time it gets to getting to that job interview or meeting someone like me, the more likely you are to do well. So as I came on stage, I was asking what you guys do. It's film and video, it's advertising, and it's one other, right? Journalism. And I'm not saying this just to kind of gas you guys up, but they are all areas that my clients are specifically looking at hiring people. So here's what I do. I have an agency called the Creative Content Agency today. We look after, we specialize in working with national brands. Typically, they're in their first few years of being in e-commerce, generating revenues of anywhere between £3 to £10 million a year through their websites. A lot of them have kind of like legacy businesses where they might have, retail stores, and they might be in B2B, B2C, whatever it may be. But a little bit about my backstory. I started off, as many Asian kids from the 1980s, I'm the son of a shopkeeper. Started off sweeping floors and, putting together Walker's Crisps, putting them out on the shelves. Come from a very entrepreneurial family, come from a kind of performing family as well. Like my dad used to sing. As a result, I ended up becoming an MC and DJing, and that's been something I've been doing for about 16 years. Worked out pretty good for me. The bit that matters from when I was at university, I've always been into kind of like parties and hitting the clubs and hanging around with like other artists and other DJs. So in 1998, when I went to university, when university fees were anywhere between £0 and £1,000 a year, I started street hustling. I started putting together parties, working with promoters, asking them for as many tickets as I can get, breaking them down, selling them off in people's halls, sneaking past security guards, knocking on people's doors, trying to get them to come check out parties that these promoters were doing. And eventually I got my own crew together and we started doing our own parties. What that taught me is, it taught me essentially how people gravitate towards certain brands, particularly in entertainment and music. Over a longer period of time, I got my first degree. I then went off and worked in the designer fragrance industry for a little while, working with designer brands. And when we were putting catalogs together, this was before you buy stuff online, through websites and stuff. We used to literally photocopy catalogs and send them to other businesses where they could choose designer fragrances to buy from my then boss. Went and did a master's for a year in technology management, acquisition and strategy, got an offer for that after doing my degree. And then during this whole time, because I was studying business and IT and technology management, shit really hit the fan. If you kind of go back to 2000, the NASDAQ crashed, and that means that all the tech companies and all the dot-com businesses that were coming up in those days all wiped out on the main markets in New York. All the funding that they were getting, all the kind of rapid growth that they were experiencing, all disappeared. I specialize, actually, at that time I used to specialize in mobile technology. And as I'll show you on the next slide, which I've waited a few seconds before I hit, you can probably see it up there. Oh, you can't read it, so I'll read it out to you. My dissertation was on mobile commerce, a revolutionary opportunity to get into the minds and pockets of consumers. So imagine this, I'm 20 years old, before 3G. 3G licenses haven't even been issued to Vodafone and T-Mobile and all these guys. And I'm saying to my lecturer, listen, I want to do a dissertation on mobile apps, mobile banking, smartphones, high bandwidth phones where you can surf the internet. And you can imagine my lecturer just thought I was a complete dick. He was like, get out of here. You're not going to get a dissertation with this. And that's probably the first point that I want to make with you guys today. The way that you can get employed in this system that's just currently not working is you've got to be a little bit ahead of the curve. Of course, apply for jobs, of course, network, but the thing that I'm passionate about and the thing that's kind of got me where I've got to today is just raw hustle, just creating what you can create with whatever tools you've got. For me, it's self-publishing and self-promotion. I have been putting together blogs since the mid-2000s. Being early with blogs and being early with putting my own content online got me access to some pretty interesting people. Pharrell, the Wu-Tang Clan, Seth Godin, if any of you guys follow like New Marketing, Amy Winehouse, Russell Peters, a comedian, started my own clothing line, threw my birthday party for 600 people inside the Gherkin, had a few good mixtapes out with the Wu-Tang and my own, worked with the Mobos. And I know I've been told as well that everyone might not be too engaged when it comes to question and answer sessions. I'm big on Q&A, so as I tell you my story a little bit more, if there's any of those deals you want breaking down, at the end, I'm happy to break down how I did any of those deals with any of those companies, including Accenture, JP Morgan, opening karaoke bars, you name it. And that's really pretty much it. I mean, that's the only initial point I kind of wanted to make, which is that, you know, people are paying, what is it, 9,000 fees? What do people pay at university? Is that about right? Yeah. I'm hearing the average debt once you come out of university is about 40, 45K, including accommodation, food, travel, transport, all that. Is that right? Crazy money, right? Like if you think about it, it's enough money that most people today in 2014 could start their own business if they knew they had 45 grand's worth of capital expenditure over the next few years. Here's some practical tips that I think will give you an edge. And I do apologize if the previous speakers have already covered this. I literally just walked in. It's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove. And that's really, really, really important. And I want to give you two very practical scenarios, the traditional scenario, and then I want to give you the scenario where if I was your age right now, which was only 10 years ago, how I would then go and get to where I need to get to. Because all this progress has taken me about 15 years. I genuinely believe that you guys can do it in 5 with the tools that are available. Scenario 1, you go to an interview for an employer, let's say it's a graduate scheme or whatever it is. You sit there, and on their terms, on the employer's terms, you answer their questions. Okay, so what A-levels did you get? My A-levels were shit. What did you do at university? What experience have you got? My work experience was working in UPS, separating parcels, putting them in, buckets. I got turned down from 3 McDonald's when I was a 16, 17-year-old. And when I was 18 and I was doing my A-levels, my then A-levels teacher, English teacher, told me I'd never get into university. And here I am speaking at one. So this is the beginning of everything starting to fall apart. So scenario 1, you sit there, you're doing an interview, and they're asking you questions. You answer the questions that your employer's asking you. Alternatively, scenario 2, if you're working smart today, let's say you've set up a blog 6 months earlier, or you've set up a blog 1 year earlier. And if you've not got a blog, let's say you set one up today, and you're 6 months away from your first interview. That interviewer can ask you a question, well, what do you think about, the issues with shooting with a Canon 5D Mark II and the crappy audio that's coming out? You say, because you're passionate about the industry and you're connected, truly connected to that job and what you want to do, you're not just there because you want to get a paycheck. You say, well, actually, you know what, I wrote a blog about that 6 months ago. What you're then doing is you're prejudicing the conversation. Now, prejudice is a really good term. It doesn't mean anything racial. It means you are forcing the person to prejudge you. You've done work already that sets the tone about what kind of person you are. So surely you can answer the question in that interview and say, well, actually, here's my position on it. But if you turn around and say, I wrote a blog last April on this subject, they know that you were already connected to the dialogue around being in that world of employment before you even got there. Does it make sense what I'm saying? You've already thought about it, but not only that, but you've already put yourself out there and kind of gone on record with it. Employers now, people like myself, are interested in catching people already down the stream. It's very expensive in the economy today to take a completely unpolished grad and teach them everything they need to know from day one. On the flip side, your generation, and I don't want to separate us too much, but your generation has had Photoshop, Facebook, Twitter, now Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. From, smartphones have been a fairly regular thing. I came from that generation when we started off with flyers, and then we ended up getting smartphones and the internet and all that other stuff. So realistically, if you're not out there publishing what you're passionate about and what your expertise is from now, then you're really giving you're kind of stepping back and letting other people who've got that hustle get ahead of you. Now, a question might be, well, I don't know too much about a certain area, right? I've not had the experience, I've not worked for companies. How can I now go out and blog and create content about this? Well, here's the point. They're not hiring you for a 45, 50 grand job. They're hiring you for a job wherever the market is. I'm guessing it's probably between 18 and 24 for a grad right now. So if you don't write the world's most illustrious thesis on that subject, that's cool because they expect that, because they're not expecting you to give them deep, granular detail in that interview. You've got to go with what you know. But here's how it gets better. the more you blog, the more you research, and you've got to be passionate about what you're doing, whether it be advertising, whether it be journalism, especially journalism, because you can start writing. There's no barrier to entry for journalism right now, whether it be film and video. You can get out there even with a flip cam, depending on what kind of content you get and how you edit it. I mean, a lot of the initial celebrity stuff that I did with these guys, let me choose somebody like Dynamo, who's now, he's a fairly known guy. When we were working with him, we were using 170, 180 pound cameras that we bought from Dixon's, but the content was good, the timing was right, and then by the time, now if anybody wants to work with my agency and we get a lot of celebrity work, we show them these viral videos that we did 5, 6 years ago, and we say, if we did this with a shitty 150 pound camera, imagine if we now bring in our 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 grand cameras, what we can do for you. Make sense? Here's my thing that I'm really conscious about. I always worry that I'm going to say something and people are going to be like, nah, this guy doesn't really know what he's talking about because he's established now, da, da, da. I'm really trying to, so if I say anything that doesn't make sense or you want to criticize me, I'm really open. You can jump in. You can even ask a question as we go along. I'm totally okay with it. Now, here's a disclaimer. What I'm saying to you today is not necessarily going to apply to everyone. One thing that I realized from when I was at university and from all my years in industry and business and seeing things happen is that some people fall to the wayside. Some people just haven't got it. I wish I could take all of you and make you into really solid, well-rounded, entrepreneurial, creative. I wish I could help you all find happiness and meet your dreams through your careers. But the reality is, some people are just lazy. Some people just don't give a shit. And unfortunately, you can probably look to your left or your right, hopefully not both, and know that some of the people around you are not going to be where they need to be in 5 years' time, or you're going to be a lot further along than them. It comes down to passion and hustle. And the only way that you start that whole process is you've got to ask yourself, regardless of the course that you chose, regardless of what you're doing today, what is it that you're passionate about? That's the most important thing, because we live in a world right now where you can choose. Unless you're a doctor and you're going down the medicine route, or law, you're going down the law route, and you've got to kind of sign certain things and get past certain exams to know certain things. But if you're passionate, there is so much free information online right now that will get you past, above and beyond what your university course teaches you. If you're going to think different, if you're going to do stuff different, do it now whilst the system's broken. Do it now whilst there's a so-called recession. Because I'll tell you one thing. Oh, shit. I just hit my microphone. That's going to sound horrible in the video. I grew my business. I've never seen such massive business growth since when the recession hit in. I'm going to take a sip of water. One of the ways that we made money, and this is a way that you can all make money, as independent people, I went to work for a startup in Los Angeles in 2007. It was a blogging company started by a guy. I think I was the 5th or 6th employee at that company. And they used to write about, at the time, what were considered niche technology companies. YouTube, which had just been bought by Google. MySpace, which people were saying News Corp was going to buy. Facebook, which at the time was just on university college campuses. They would write about all the executive news around those worlds. So how much are they earning? How much intellectual property do they own? Has one director gone from one office to another office? Or has Google snatched somebody from Facebook? They were early on the curve talking about an area that eventually became, a household industry, which is social media and technology. As guy number 7 in that company, I worked for a brilliant CEO at the time called Rafa Ali, who's still one of my mentors today. And you should write down as many of these names as you can, because if you then email me afterwards, I'll give you more of a breakdown as to who these people are. As we grew the company, and as he grew the company, and we wrote more and more blogs, we had more and more people following us, subscribing to us, CEOs, vice presidents, directors from other media companies, traditional media companies like the BBC, like ITV, like CNBC, like MSN, following the news that we were writing about Facebook and Google and MySpace and all these kind of companies. About a year and a half later, as you do get with rapid growth on the West Coast in California, when something gets momentum, it gets a lot of subscribers, we got bought by The Guardian. We got bought just ahead of the official recession coming in. So everyone remembers 2008 when Lehman Brothers happened? And everyone was like running for the hills and being like, oh, fuck, everything's gone wrong. I was working for The Guardian at that exact point. So I think all those kind of banks were in and around The Guardian's head office. I'd been there for about 3-4 months, and they just bought this media company from LA. We got up to about 30, 32 people, and it was just one of those kind of like flagship acquisitions that kind of gave hope to the blogging world. At that time, I'm selling advertising packages for conferences. So the way the conference model works, the way the conference industry works, is you get as many smart executives as you can. They take their company money, and they'll pay £1,000 for a day or for 2 days or $1,000 to come to a conference, eat canapes, hear other smart people talk, and then it's all paid for by ticket sales and it's all paid for by advertisers. The way that Motorola finds its way into a room like that, or Skype, was through someone like me at the time, an ad sales guy, and I was selling ad packages for 25,000 US dollars, 15,000 US dollars, come along to this conference, set up a table, give people all your leaflets, talk to people, find prospects that you can work with. And because we've got these smart people inside this room, if you pay 15,000, if you make one contract deal, you probably make 10 times that. It's completely worth your while. A few months after this, so this is that summer where things are going really, really well. The Guardian have bought us. It's around July 2008 they bought us. Come October, shit hits the fan. The whole market starts crashing. I'm on the phone speaking to Motorola and all these other clients that I've fought tooth and nail to win and give me money. And they're saying, you know what, we can't give you 25,000 for the next conference because our chief marketing officer and our chief financial officer, who normally gives us the budgets to give to you for advertising and marketing, now only has a budget of 20,000. Jump forward 4 weeks, that budget of 20,000 becomes 15. Jump forward 4 weeks, that budget of 15,000 becomes 10. Do you see where I'm going with it? People are spending less and less and less on advertising and marketing. Who does that money normally go to? Big media companies, big marketing companies. But who can do media and marketing today in 2014? All of us. We're all media companies. If you have a blog, you've got some media online. If that blog builds momentum, I know a lot of ladies do with things like, you know, makeup blogs and hair and beauty blogs, things that are aimed at the consumer industry. You can get advertising on that, or you can build influence on that, whereby you can actually connect with big brands. And as you're connecting with them and you're getting free samples or sponsorship money, notice you're not going the traditional route of getting an interview with that company. The kind of quality of content you're creating is what's getting you the bandwidth with that organization. If anything doesn't make sense, stop me at any point. If it does, please send a tweet to that address so I can, when I leave here, I can, you know, make the next talk a little bit better for the next people that I speak to. Anyway, back to my LA story. I'm in London and those budgets are going lower, 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 and lower. As a result of the payout that I got from the acquisition of that company, I thought, fuck this, I don't like working at the Guardian. Sorry, Guardian guys, if you're watching. It's still a good publication, don't get me wrong. And I took the payout money from the sale of that company. I went to Australia, and then that's when I had my connected moment with my passion and what I do today. I was sitting on a beach, lying down, exhausted from months and months of working, going from an independent company to corporate working. And I thought to myself, what do I really, really want to do with my life? And what have I enjoyed the most by the time I got to my mid to late 20s? And for me, it was creating content. Now, I don't think you can see it because of the resolution, but this panel right here, the one that's kind of dark black, that's called the Creative Content Agency. That's my agency today. I'm only going to say my email address once, write it down. raj@creativecontentagency.com. You can hit me on that anytime. I have no issue emailing you all on a one-on-one basis, any advice, any tips you need. I don't get much downtime, but occasionally when I'm traveling or if I'm on a jogging machine, I'll hit you back. I started this company, creativecontentagency.com, as one guy with really no money, aside from the money that I'd earned from the sale to The Guardian, which I was using to live off and rent off at the time in London.
Can you give us the email address again, please?
I'll give it one more time as a bonus. Everyone got their pens ready? iPhones? Yeah? raj@creativecontentagency.com. You can email me anytime. I am looking for people for my clients, so take what I'm saying today and then make sure that when you do email me, hit me with something that I can work with. Anyway, I started this company, started making a combination of videos for my clients because I was really big on the whole explosion of YouTube. I saw that it didn't matter whether the content was from a big brand or whether it was from an independent person. So simultaneously, I start signing up clients like the Royal Bank of Scotland and so on, and I get video agencies to go in, shoot videos of their CEOs, internal messages for their internal staff. And at the same time, we're doing viral videos with 150-pound cameras for consumer companies like golf companies and things like that, where we're reviewing little products, tinkering around with them the way an independent blogger would. Of the two, the more successful format was the 150-pound camera one. Because online, it's more about the quality of the content rather than the quality of the video. People want authenticity. People want something that they can relate to, it's got to be kind of authentic. And so what's inside the content makes a difference. I don't want to veer away too far from where you guys you are in your career at the moment, but anybody from the kind of, how many journalist folks have we got in the room? Can I just see a raise of hands real quick? I'd say about half, right? Can anybody throw out a hot topic in journalism right now for me? A hot topic in journalism, a topic in journalism that most people in and around the journalism industry are talking about.
Convergence?
I beg your pardon?
Convergence in journalism?
I beg your pardon, my dear?
Convergence.
Convergence. Elaborate on that for me a little bit, please.
Sorry?
Could you just tell me a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, it is the combination of all the medias together.
Combination of all the medias together. So this is a topic that no matter where you are in the media industry, you're probably thinking about this, right? And I definitely have some context on that because I've worked for publishers and they are all looking about how they get their content on mobile, so multi-platform, but then also how they get different types of content as well, like how do they get user-generated content? How do they get content from their readers? How do they produce content themselves and make sure it's authentic and it's not biased? And then how do they also make content with brands? Like if you look at companies like BuzzFeed and companies like that, and even The Guardian, they'll produce content with a company to make sure it's branded. Now that's one subject in your industry at the moment. I guarantee you that most employers in the world of journalism and publishing would want you to have a position on that by the time you show up at their office for an interview. Yes? No? Is it something that you talk about in lectures as well? How many people of the... I beg your pardon?
We've got to be versatile.
You've got to invest the time, correct. So of the people, the journalist majors, the journalist grads, could you put your hands up again if you're doing journalism for me real quick? How many people have actually gone online and, keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. I'm going to burn a lot of calories whilst we're talking, right? How many people have actually gone online and wrote a piece about the position of the industry right now and published it, self-published it? The people with their hands still in the air have got a competitive advantage. I'm not going to lie to you. Last time I came here, I keep it very, very real. If you've got a position, you can put it down now, dear. Thank you. Appreciate it. This girl, she's definitely going to have a chat later on. So, yeah, and this is going back to the example I gave you before. When you go for an interview, when they have this conversation, yes, you might be the most knowledgeable person, but you're the most knowledgeable person in that moment. But if you've already got content online and it backs up what you're saying about that position, and listen, there's 1,000 things in the industry at the moment, from the journalism industry, from the film industry, from the advertising industry, that you can take a position on. And it's a gold rush. Try and get as much content online as you can. It's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove. Now, as you move into the world, into this world that I'm in, the creative world, the entrepreneurship world, where you work with brands and you essentially give them creative ideas and business strategies that help them make money, there's two types of hustle. There's a flip and a stretch. This is from my definition. Don't forget, I grew up in Manchester where, people were like true street hustlers doing things that were way more dangerous than promoting parties. So I'll give you the analogy. A flip is taking something and adding value to it. You flip it, you make it worth more. For example, you see a logo right there, Sync, Eat, Sing, Shine. It's a karaoke bar in Harrow. Started by a friend of mine who I've been working with for 12, 15 years. I did a year and a half in Canada. He came with me. We worked out there together. He's a very, very smart business guy. In fact, he can do everything that I can't do. But where he needed a bit of help was in branding. Now, journalists in the room pay attention. Film and video people in the room pay attention. Advertising people in the room pay attention. What you know already about those industries, even as undergrads, is of some use, particularly to the small to medium side of the market. Maybe not big companies. Maybe you can't walk into Coca-Cola's office right now and tell them about branding. But if there's a new company starting up in your local area, you can probably give them some tips. So along with his team, I came up with that logo, came up with the slogan underneath, Eat, Sing, Shine. And that is a flip. Take something that most business owners can create by themselves. So he got the venue, he put in the karaoke rooms, etc. But then put that value layer on top, flip it, make it hotter. A stretch is the same but slightly different. This guy that I'm telling you about, this particular entrepreneur who opened this karaoke bar, he's a stretcher. He will go to a company and stretch their budgets and take a little bit of the difference. So for example, he used to work in the corporate events industry. In corporate events, these big brands like the Accentures, the JP Morgans, and all these other folks, they'll do an event on a night and spend 50, 60 grand on champagne, canapes, fancy hotels, ballrooms, and things like that. They've got the budget, but necessarily they haven't got the skills or the expertise amongst their PAs and so on and people like that to organize these kind of events. So what they do is they go to people like my friend who are stretchers. They take the 60 grand budget and they deliver the event for 48 grand and they keep the 12 grand difference. Does everybody get what I'm saying? Your base point is here. If you're a flipper, you know how to make something hot. Here's what your personality will tell you. You'll look at a brand, tell me if you can, any of you can relate to this, and you'll be like, I can see what that brand's missing. I can see how that brand, if it was on Instagram, or if they had a WordPress blog, or if they were on Snapchat, what they could be doing to get more customers who could potentially give them more money. Missing opportunities. That's where a flipper comes in, that kind of hustler. A stretcher will look at a brand and say, that brand is hemorrhaging money. It's wasting money doing this. It's wasting money doing that. They might have put around 15 billboards in a certain area, but you don't think that that's getting them the customers they need. You think you could get them the same customers by doing a flyer program, an Instagram program, doing an advertising program on Facebook. Journalists, you guys are selling crack in the 80s right now. If you can write, if you can copyright, you can write not just journalism stuff, sell out. Write product descriptions on e-commerce sites. There are so many e-commerce companies at the moment that are selling everything from pet food to sneakers to whatever you want. Independent companies selling watches, even affiliate companies that are not selling their own watches, they're reselling other people's watches, and they are reselling them because they have original copy and they sell it better. Copy means, everyone knows what copy means, right? Words written specifically for that purpose of selling something. Or, I mean, copy can mean anything, but in the world of commerce, it means that. If you can go to e-commerce companies right now and say, listen, I can refresh all of your content, make sure it's dynamic, update your blog, and make sure we write blogs about certain products. Everybody familiar with the kind of Google Panda and Penguin update? Yes, no? What I'm about to tell you is money. Pay attention, write it down again. In fact, write down Penguin and Panda whilst I'm taking this sip.
Ross, I reckon 5 more and then Q&A.
5 more than Q&A. All right, cool. Google is getting very smart to the fact that everyone is putting a lot of content.
Sorry, did you say penguin and panda?
Penguin and panda like the animals. Google the penguin update and the panda update from Google. It's a quick change of their algorithm, the way that the Google search engine searches other sites, and if they see that different sites have all got the same written content on, so let's say, for example, this watch. If this watch is available on 15 e-commerce sites, and all those e-commerce sites took the description about the watch, the words about the metals and the leathers and the fabrics, they took it directly from Hugo Boss, they copied it and pasted it and put it on their site, Google will search Hugo Boss's site, and they will search the e-commerce site. But Google's only got a few slots at the top of the website, so they will give the traffic to Hugo Boss, because they want the Googler, the person who's searching, to get the most relevant content, and the most relevant content isn't necessarily about where you can buy it, it's about the spec of the watch. If you take that description on behalf of that e-commerce company, and you flip it, you change the text, you reword it, you don't obviously change the facts, but you write it in a way that's more stylized towards the way that e-commerce company works, you are then writing original content about that product. That gives them higher rankings, because if the quality of the content is good, more people will go on that site, they'll spend more time on the site, it increases the SEO. Journalists, SEO, again, is your crack in the 80s. It's really where the money is. If you're writing original content, you're really helping companies. And then they are starting to get their rankings higher. When rankings get higher, more people discover their products. The more people that discover their products, the more products they sell. And the more products they sell, the more they can buy. The more they can buy, the lower their prices go, the higher their margins grow, the more net profit they make, the more people they can employ, the bigger offices they can get. Do you see how it all works back down to traditional business? Does everyone get it? Jump in again if I'm talking crazy. Yes, my friend.
Is that the same as search engine optimization?
It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. SEO is what it is. You know, there's a lot of stuff I could tell you today, and I genuinely wish I could come here and do this more, because when I was 20, 21 years old in Manchester, it sucked. We really had no guidance. We were on that traditional system of graduate, go get a graduate job. There was no self-publishing. There was nothing. And we didn't have the guidance and that kind of stuff. So if I could, I would honestly come here for a week of my own accord and just sit with you guys 9 to 5 and give you the exact details and everything, because I feel like that's one thing that I was missing when I was 21 years old, and it's the reason why I'm so passionate about coming to you guys today and speaking to you all now. Really appreciate the opportunity every few years, as always. If it's okay, I know that Q&A might not be the normal thing, but if you've not got a question for me, there's some hot shit up there. I'll break down the deals for you in detail of how I launched a clothing line, how I work with Russell Peters, how I work with these big corporate companies, how I work with Dynamo, how I met Pharrell, how I did that show in Australia. Whatever you want, it doesn't have to be a question, but I want to leave you with something here that makes you go, you know what, I could probably do that. And I really want the people who are looking at me right now and saying, I can do what that cocky bastard does, to come and speak to me. Because you might get employed, and you might be the reason why I can grow my business.
Is there anything they could possibly do, you know, over 80 hours over the Easter break or straight up to the end of the semester? Because that's what's at the front of a lot of their minds. They need to get placement opportunities, some kind of internship experience that will help them in the future, but also will conform to sort of what they need to get on with now.
So the question is, if I was 20 years old right now on this program, on this university program, and I had 80 hours over the course of what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, or maybe a bit after semester as well.
How many weeks have they got?
Well, I mean, they're having to study, but they've got 2 clear weeks over Easter, then at the end of the semester.
All right, let me be really honest with you. I can be right, I can be raw, right? You said.
Yeah.
If you've got 2 weeks to kind of increase your opportunity and get yourself into a placement and whatnot, 80 hours is 40 hours a week. 5 days, 8 hours a day. The guys that I hustle with, that's part-time.
Yeah.
Who agrees? At least clap if you agree, just so I know like where the real people who are trying to really get money now are. If you're just working 8 hours a day, and I'm not saying work until you get sick and your skin messes up and you look like shit and all that kind of, you're eating Twix instead of a proper breakfast. Do all that. Go to the gym, get a walk, spend time with creative people, go to a gallery, do whatever you need to do. But if you're only working 8 hours a day, I'm not the guy you need to talk to. In those 2 weeks, you've got 14 days. You need to put in at least 10 hours a day. If you're sensible, 9 a.m. till 7 p.m., whatever breaks you take, divide up your day equally and put them on the end. Here's some of the real practical things I would do if you're looking for where the next opportunities are in terms of internships. Listening is one skill that I feel people aren't taught at the moment. And the best place to listen to what's going on in the market, because you are your own business, so you've got to position yourself as to where the money is. If you want to listen, one of the best listening platforms is Twitter. How many folks are on Twitter? Can I just see a quick raise of hands? If any of you don't tweet me, I'm going to be really pissed off.
Already on your page.
I want a tweet from every single one of you.
I'm already on your page.
You're already on my page? This is my favorite already. You're on Twitter, or you want to ask a question? If you give me 10 seconds so I can answer, I'll just finish the question that was up here. I would get the main hashtags in your industry, whether it be journalism, whether it be social media, whether it be film and video, whether it be independent cinema, whether it be advertising. I would follow all the major blogs, so New Media Age, Advertising Age, DP Review, which is the camera site, and I would start looking at the Twitter feeds that are coming through and use your instinct. This is for the ones that are going to win. Use your instinct to find trends. If everybody's talking about, everyone saw the Jean-Claude Van Damme advert where he's kind of like on 2 vans and the 2 vans are driving and they separate and his legs separate? Volvo, is that what it is, right? You need to blog that on your blog and take your position on it. Mashable took a position on it and all these other big media companies, The Guardian, but you need to take your position on it. Look for the trends, take a position, have your own version. One thing that Rafa Ali taught me, who's the former CEO that I told you about, is that news is a commodity. There's no value in it. Like with, I don't know, chocolate. It's just chocolate, 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 chocolate. You can get it everywhere and you can get different versions of it, as you can with news. You take that chocolate, you melt it down, you make it into a cake, and that's specifically yours because that's the cake that you made. You take that story, which is your chocolate, you break it down and you flip it into something else, a cake, a cookie, a brownie, or whatever, and that's yours and that's your perspective on it. Whether your perspective be slightly funnier than The Guardian or a little bit more research than BuzzFeed or whatever it may be, that's yours. So if I had that time, I would spend a lot of time listening and then creating your own content. Then when you approach companies, which you need to do, you can then say, look, this thing that we're having a conversation about in our interview, I've got more content about it. that person will more than likely be impressed, as I would, if you left that interview and afterwards said, hey, thanks for the interview, I appreciate it, look forward to your feedback. By the way, we spoke about this. I wanted to give you a couple of extra links to drill down a little bit more on it. They get to know you a little bit better. My friend with the hat on the phone, if you've still got a question for me, now's the time. What's your name? I answered it. All right, Mystic Meg. What's your name, mate? Kundai. Kundai?
Yeah.
All right.
I've got a question about how you first started your first business. And, like, was the process difficult for you? Like, did it take a long period?
My first business, I rarely tell this story. So, Kundai, this, because I'm from the hood, like really, really from the hood. Like, so I grew up in Salford, West Manchester. My dad had a newsagent, as I mentioned, and it was real. In the 80s, people were getting laid off from steel mines. It was the Thatcher era. I mean, it was really shitty, right? And Manchester is one of those places. I mean, now it's metropolitan. I go there every so often. It's really, you know, it's got Harvey Nichols and all that. But back in those days, my first business was street promoting. Now, if you're in an area where there's, you know, Manchester's very, very close. So like the different neighborhoods are very, very close to the city, the projects, the ghettos, whatever you want to call them. I decided, being the smart ass that I am, loving hip hop music and all that kind of other stuff, that I'm going to become a promoter. So how I started my first business was the first week of Freshers Week. I was staying in a building with, I think it was 1,024 people. And I worked for 3 months at Vodafone selling phones to get about 3-4 grand's worth of salary so I could pay 2,780 quid for my first 2 semesters worth of staying in this place called Student Village. Google it, it's still in Manchester. I remember walking into that building, seeing over 1,000 rooms, and inside there you've got everything. Every type of person from everywhere in the world, international students, rich students, poor students, pretty girls, drug dealers, you name it. Every type of student you can imagine is inside that building. And I was like, there's some money here. I can't sell a whole bunch of stuff. I'm actually terrible at most things in life. But music I'm very passionate about. So I see a flyer for a hip hop and R&B night, and I see a phone number on the back. I was one of the only dudes, because I was working at Vodafone and I was getting money, that I actually managed to get a phone which used to cost me £15 a month on Orange 15, and you got 15 minutes worth of call credit on it. For £15, and it was a shitty phone. It's not going to do any good for you in a bar. It's a big old phone. And I rang the number on the back of the flyer, and I said to the guy, listen, I want to come to this party. I said, how much are tickets? Trying to get myself a deal. He was like, listen, £5 ticket's a £5 ticket. I was like, all right, let me come see you. He was about 2-3 blocks away. I ran down Oxford Road with a friend of mine who I just literally made that day. And I was like, listen, we need to go get some tickets. Find out everybody you know who wants to get tickets. We ran down there. We met this guy. And we said, listen, what if we got 10 tickets or 20 tickets? I can't remember the numbers right now. It was so long ago. He was like, yeah, I'd give you a free ticket. I said, what if we got 30 tickets? He goes, yeah, I'd give you a VIP. I said, right, put me down for it. Give me 30 tickets. He was like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not going to give you 30 tickets. It's Freshers Week. He goes, come back to me with 30 sales. So I hit the streets. I started knocking on doors, started letting everybody I know and told them to let everyone they know. And I said, this is the hottest party in the world. Bear in mind, I've probably been to a nightclub 3 times in my whole life. And I'm like, this is the hottest party ever. People start saying, you got tickets? Yeah, I got tickets. Why is your name not on the flyer? Oh, man, they printed it before I got my number on it. But word gets round. People start knocking on my door. Can I get tickets? Can I get tickets? Can I get tickets? I go back to the guy. I get my 30 tickets. I give them to people that I need to give them to. I'm then in VIP. The day I first went to my first VIP room in a nightclub from hustling at 18 years old, blew my mind. Freshers Week, guys. Freshers Week, when everyone's just like eating pot noodles, and I'm there with all the dudes, especially the Manchester street dudes, in the VIP of this room, and I'm just like, yeah, I could get used to this. Ask me now as a 33-year-old, do I want to hang out in a VIP room with gangsters? I'd probably rather just stay at home and watch X Factor, to be honest. But that's how I started my business.
Okay, I reckon we've got time for one more question.
How did you get the 600 head party at the
How would I get 600 people in the Gherkin? Awesome story. The Gherkin is a listed building. I think it's got like the Queen's face engraved in all the glass and stuff. But they were working with a friend of mine who's a niche promoter. So what he does is he promotes parties to a particular niche audience. His niche audience was essentially middle-class Asian kids, single kids. So he had a business, and in that business, he would do like speed dating events. So he would get people, you know, Asian kids that work in JP Morgan and all these kind of all graduates, and they're all single. They're way too busy working their graduate schemes, working 14 hours a day in some shitty office to actually go out and even date. because they're working in investment banks. So he came up with this idea of doing speed dating for them, getting 20 people, 20 people, 20 people. They speed date, speed date, speed date, speed date, and he was able to do it in the Gherkin because the Gherkin wanted access to that community. As he built his relationship with the Gherkin, and as I built my relationship with him, he said, you know what, they're looking at doing more events. They came to him and said, what could we do? I was like, Ching, let's throw a crazy party inside there. Now, previous to that, I think the year before, I lived in Toronto, Canada from like 04 till pretty much the beginning, from 03 till beginning of 05. So when I first came back to London, a lot of the kids that were in Manchester were from London. So I was like, yo, I've just moved to London. It's party time. It's going down every single weekend. I used to throw parties in local venues in Harrow, which is northwest London. I remember we threw a party for my 27th birthday, and about 400 people showed up in a pub. And they were buying bottles of Jack Daniels and vodka, and I was like, oh, we need to scale this up. So when the Gherkin became available, I was like, we take that over. So as you can see, we took the Gherkin picture, we made it colorful, we put headphones on it. My DJing name is Raj Love Soul because I'm part of the Love Soul DJs, we're a duo. And it was crazy expensive. We still had to pay for the venue. So I reached out to some of my friends that already had established but very, very small businesses. Ishan Diamonds, who I love very much for backing it, Illusions Roadshow, which used to supply us with hardware and equipment for our gigs, and JSK Mortgages and Finance, which is another friend of mine, another hustler who he got his mortgage qualification and started doing mortgages. They all chipped in money. We paid them their fees. Then we gave all the tickets away for free. Maybe a final point that I want to get to you. I'll get to you, I promise you, we'll squeeze it in. The freemium concept. Always have something to offer. Always have something to offer for free for anyone. So if you're in music, make sure you're at least doing one free party every so often. If you're in journalism, go to a small business and say, you know what, I'll write you a blog post, keep it. Again, it's like the drug dealer model. Take a hit. If you like it, come back. I'll write you 3 more blog posts. But it's true. This whole thing about selling crack in the 80s, it's 100% true. If you've got creative talent, and all of you are creative, right? Advertising, film and video, journalism, that's exactly what the market wants right now. Give little hits to people that can afford to pay you a little bit. Take it, flip it. I was saying in the car on the way here to my friend Arjun, who's helping out today, I was like, there's 2 types of things that you can do when you do a deal. Springboard, billboard. A billboard deal is do a deal, make a case study out of it. Use it as a billboard for your next deal. A springboard is do a deal and make sure that deal directly leads to you getting an introduction to somebody else who you can bounce upwards on and go and do a slightly bigger deal. So if you're if you approach a company and they've got 4 businesses and you do a deal for one of them and they introduce you to all the other 3, that's a springboard, you jump up. A billboard is just doing a deal for one company, let's say when I did a deal with Accenture, and then taking that as a billboard and going to Royal Bank of Scotland and saying, I just did Accenture, I could do this for you. Let's get it in, can we get it in real quick? Because he asked. Go on, mate.
One question.
Yeah.
What was your budget for this? For the building, for the 5 years?
The budget for the building that time? 1,500? 1,500. And the sponsors covered it, God bless them. And then we had all my, you meet people, we had live percussionists come down. Pretty much. Because I think about myself as a media company. People go, he's a self-promoting this and that, da, da, da. But I understand that if I think I've got like 1,000, or I think I've got 2,000 followers on Facebook, 1,000 on Twitter, a few hundred on Instagram. That's legitimate media, because legitimate media companies like the BBC and all that, they're all using those platforms as well. So why can't we get ownership of the people that follow us? So all the people that were involved in backing me got coverage on all of my personal channels as a personal brand. So that's exactly what it was. For the young lady down here who was very proactive in following all my stuff, I did have a gift, so I'm going to give it to you. I launched a book, not my book, I launched a book for a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, who you must Google. Yeah, give her a round of applause, because she was proactive. It's called Jab, 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 Right Hook, and we've always been in and out of the events business with our agency, and we launched this book. We brought Gary Vaynerchuk over from the US. He's the Jay-Z of social media. Go and Google him or tweet me and I'll link you back to him. And that's the book that he just put out in December. A very practical, hands-on guide to using social media, including how you set up your artwork on Pinterest and Snapchat and Instagram. Was that useful, guys? Can I come back again in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Raj.